In every society that is labeled progressive, in every society that is labeled developing, one of the hallmark is the sovereignty, not just of the country, but of the persons, the citizens. It is the sovereignty of the people that strengthens the sovereignty of the nation or the state. When the sovereignty of the people have been taken from them by rulers who are disconnected from the people, the sovereignty of the country itself is undermined. Nigeria today is no longer a sovereign state. The ruiners of Nigeria, for whom the system is working, the people who are benefiting from the system, have taken away the capacity of the Nigerian to effect a peaceful change of governance. At least you cannot change the governance, the ruling class in Nigeria through the electoral process any longer. The right to choose has been removed. If you had any doubt whatsoever, you were shown a mirror, a window rather. A window was opened into the future. You saw 2027 on the street of Abuja yesterday, assuming you ignored the lessons that were shown in the Edo election. If your eyes were blind to the Ondo election, if you didn't see what is going on in Osun State, the impunity that is governing the whole of Osun State right now, the federal overreach, the judicial tyranny and rascality that has been unleashed on Osun State. I'm not a fan of their dancing clown, but the reality is that that is the person the people chose. And today, the same thing Tinubu was complaining about in relation to Obasanjo, the same thing that he turned himself into the hero of the opposition pre-2003 and after, where he became the rallying point for those who thought he was fighting for democracy. The same thing is exactly what he's doing in Osun State today. All the voices that rose in condemnation of Obasanjo, none are able to speak again. For some reason or the other, men are no longer speaking. That is the future. So you've seen very clearly that there is no way you are going to be able to effect any change through the ballot. Any illusion you might have had should be clear. The only way to fight an idea is with another idea. It is always with another idea. In 1993, the people expressed their sovereign will in a manner contrary to the desires of the ruling class. And the ruling class annulled the election. The Oni of the time went into Aso Rock and came out saying reason. That was the foremost Yoruba Oba. He went into Aso Rock and he saw reason. And so did a whole lot of other persons. It took the common man on the street, standing defiantly behind his sovereign will, to galvanize what became known as the June 12 struggle. That it has today been diminished is thanks to the effort of all those who worked against the sovereign will of the people. The lessons and essence of the June 12 struggle was about the sovereign will, the supremacy of the sovereign will of those who are called citizens. We fought the military. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Today's generation like talking about us as a bunch of cowards. We were no cowards. When you hear of Nadeko this, Nadeko that, yes, the old men talked, but it took young men to act. Young men drove trailers. dumping sand on third mainland, enforcing sit at home. Young men bled. Yes, old men went into exile, but young men bled. A lot died. Ekpoma, Ikorodu Road, multiple places across the length and breadth of Nigeria. For years, we fought the military, and then they tricked us. Instead of continuing to insist on the sanctity of our sovereign will, our vote, we allowed the lies of 1999. Obasanjo was sold as a compromise. Oh, Yorubas were agitating. Let's do rotational presidency. We'll zone it to the Yorubas. How do you zone the sovereign power of a collective to a section? So, Obasanjo came. We were shortchanged. Everybody believed that, okay, at least now we fought, our sovereign will count. I'll fast forward to 2012 because we had a series of fraudulent elections. And then the people finally believed that they expressed their sovereign will in 2012. Or 2011, was it 2012? Yeah, 2011. And we elected the one that had no shoe. And then came the fraud of 2015, preceded by years of the subjectification of truth by a society that began to subjectify truth. It battered the lies of the fuel subsidy riot, the scam of the fuel subsidy protest. Those who should be thought leaders in society, they stood up, traded their consciences. They knew the truth, but they refused. On account of political expediency, they danced, they lied, they walked. Save Nigeria, they said. They saved Nigeria so much that they handed Nigeria to the destroyer of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, 2015. We had fraudulent change, and it led us to 2023. And 2023, I remember saying to all of you very clearly that Peter Obi represented the last opportunity for peaceful transition to normalcy in Nigeria. What did I mean? I wasn't suggesting that Peter Obi was a saint. I'm not. But I was hoping that the supremacy of the people's will will be established by a peaceful transfer of power that is reflexive of the people's will. But the same thing that happened in 1993 happened in 2023. 30 years later, we came back full cycle. The will of the people was again thwarted. But you know what happened? All of you found reasons, different reasons, why we couldn't fight as one after we had expressed our sovereign will. Partisanship, ethnicity, religion. The religiosity of candidates mattered to the point where it became a thing to have a Muslim ticket. It became a thing to have a Muslim ticket in a country as divided as our own had become by the time. Muslim ticket produced the disaster we have in office today. And then it got to the point where it requires lectures from Trump and the Americans to tell their agents in Nigeria that you can't have Muslim again. And now the same America is quiet, watching as our sovereign right to elect our rulers have been taken away from us. And they are waiting for 2027. Let me explain something to all you all. We have to stop pretending that we don't see what we see. What is happening before you is a new world order taking shape. In that new world order, we are meant to remain the destination for extraction of raw material. They've already achieved that to a very large extent. You have over 140 million people with no skills. Accumulation from years of weaponized ignorance. Illiterates are teaching your children. Bello Galadanchi, very popular skit maker in Nigeria, is a teacher in China. I believe he holds a doctorate degree. But the doctorate degree that he holds is teaching kindergarten. Imagine that. A doctorate degree holder, I believe, is teaching children in kindergarten. Now, can your brain wrap itself around the fact that the Chinese child who is not up to 10 years old is receiving educational instructions from a person who has been trained up to the doctorate degree level? You really have this level of qualification in some of our universities. This is the person teaching in kindergarten. That is the world in which our children have to compete. That's the world they have to compete in. But in our own country, we do not have the capacity to say anything about who rules us. Regardless of how badly they have destroyed the country, we have no say in their emergence or retention. It is even more dangerous when you consider the fact that the justice system sanctions that, protects it, promotes it, because it is equally complicit. Judicial offices have become hereditary. That is the system that we have built. The world is comfortable with what is happening to us. We're about to be railroaded into some new currency, probably administered from France, because it is now the French that appears to be in control of our tax system, whilst our security is in the hand of Americans. What exactly is the government of Nigeria still doing for the Nigerian? Here is where our situation becomes alarming. Everything that I have described as dysfunctional are actually functional. It is working exactly the way the system is designed to work. I can keep making these videos from now till kingdom come. The system has no problem with that. Those who took steps, let's see how the system has dealt with them. Without carrying gun, by merely protesting against this system, unknown number of Nigerians were killed at Lekki Toll Gate, and the Nigerian state denied them. Even though, I repeat it, Sanwo-Olu paid 100 million in cash in compensation to the injured and the families of the dead. But the Nigerian state continues to deny it. But I'm saying to you, speaking Dogon Turenchi here, we don't change anything. So let's talk about those who protested and who are known, the Showores of this world, the Peter Aka of this world. What has the state done to them? Tear gas them, sent some to prison, slammed Showore in detention. What did he ever do other than to protest? What? What is it that these persons ever did other than to protest? They never bore harm against Nigeria. Persons bearing harm against Nigeria. Dan Keremi killed an ACP, wore his uniform to what they call the peace meeting, where they had instructed the government officials to ensure that they do not bring any policeman in uniform. Dan Keremi wore the uniform of the Assistant Commissioner of Police. Dan Keremi is walking free. There are multiple bandits, they call them terrorists, who have borne harms against the Nigerian state. They're walking free. The Nigerian state is paying them